All right, everybody. Jim Carpenter, from the Governor of the Free State of Colorado, Republic of the United States of America. Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Joseph. Good evening, America. We are in the middle of a revolution, whether we realize it or not. Tonight, I want to report to the American people that thanks to a combined effort of Joe and Mike with Righteous Army and many others, Justice Waters and myself, have all been busy communicating. And communication is wonderful. And it's encouraging. And we're finding that we have a lot more in common than we have the differences. So now the question is, how do we implement this? And so we bring our Constitution and our Bill of Rights into play. Justice Waters, a studied man, is great at helping us to understand the mechanics of all of this, because we're only going to get one shot, and we need to do it right the first time. This is our hill, folks. It's time for us to get organized for what's coming. We're about to own our future. Justice Waters.
Thank you, Governor. Hello, America. We are the Republic for the United States of America. We are the same republic that your founding fathers in the 1700s built with the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all that comes based upon the Word of God, the Holy Scriptures. Tonight, I'm going to kind of rehash something. I'm going to do it in a different way to where there should not be any question when I'm done how this procedure works. As a justice in a court, procedure is everything. If you don't understand the procedure, then nothing gets done correctly. And like the governor just said, we have one shot at this. It's either going to get done correctly or it's not going to get done at all. So here we go, the Northwest Ordinance. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out to you in time periods. And now, remember, this is hypothetical, but the steps are correct. The steps must take place in this order. This is how it will be done. The days and the weeks that I'm going to talk about, they are just an example. So step one, day one, the corporation falls. Doesn't make any difference how or why. It just falls. It collapses. Why? Because there's the Federal Reserve. And when it collapses, the corporation collapses because the Federal Reserve is the backbone of the corporation. Day one, step two. The Biden administration goes into hiding. The deep state follows. They're going anywhere they can go to hide from the American people. Parts, not all, but parts of the United States military take charge and they hold the nation in check. They, at that moment, are the only thing keeping this nation from being taken over by another entity. Day two comes. Step three. The Republic. That's we, the ones you're listening to right now. They, because of what we have done 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, we get stood up by international law. Now, last week there was some confusion about all that. Here's why that will work. Because right now we have a number of nations that back us in reality. They watch us. They even listen in on our phone calls. We have filled out all the proper paperwork, given it to all the proper areas of the international law. And that's why this republic will be stood up. Not because we're so great and we look good, but because by international law, we're next in line. We filled out the proper paperwork, and those within international law has accepted it. Step 4, still on day 2. The President of the Republic, James Geiger, calls for the national militia to step up and take charge. Now, we don't have states yet. I'm going to explain that in a minute. We don't have states yet, so what we have is a bunch of territories. And in those territories, we have militia. The President, who is the only real person in charge at the moment, is going to call those militiamen up from all over the country to guard their territories, their counties, their cities that they live in. Protect them. Martial law won't be like you hear, but there will be a form of martial law where if somebody from another entity or nation tries to come in and take over, those militiamen have the right and the authority under the President to eliminate, and if you don't understand what that means kill all enemies who will try to come in and take over this nation. I want everybody to understand this is being done in a proper, a godly, and a law-abiding way. We have the right to defend our land, and we will. Step 5, the President appoints governors in each of the state territories. Now, what do I mean? I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you live in a nice little retirement area, or you live in a resort area. It's very nice. It's got a lake, a beach. People from all over the country come and they stay there. They put money into your local economy. You love it there. 30,000, 40,000 people. One day a tornado comes through. That sucker is 1.5 miles wide. And it comes right down Main Street and wipes out your entire town. Now, you have the boundary of your town there, and you have the people of your town there. Except you don't have a town. It's gone. Well, the corporation would be the tornado. They came in and took over all the states. And when the corporation is gone away, they take those states with them. They are their entity. And what is left is a barren land. It's not a state. The people are there. The boundaries are there. But the actual law name of that state is not there. It now becomes a territory. That's why the Northwest Ordinance comes into play with us. That's why our President, James Geiger, can start appointing governors in each of what I will call the state territories. Now, it's not going to happen in one day. It may take a month to get all that done. It may only take a week. Now, at this point in time, people are desperate. They don't know about where their next paycheck's coming from. They want to get something done quickly. There's going to be chaos, yes. That's why the militia and the army on the land is there, to protect those people who are scared and wanting to know. The jobs are still there. The corporation like Ford Motor Company and all these other small businesses, they're there. They're still in operation. But there's no central bank, no Federal Reserve, no money coming from a centralized banking system a cartel, a mob. You can think of a mob in New York City. That's who's running your bank. That's who's running your country right now. Look at the news. See the people in D.C. They are not your people. They are a mob, and they belong to what we would call the syndicate. They have your interest. They just flushed it down the toilet. They don't listen to you, and that's why they collapsed. It's going on. It's happening right now before your eyes. You don't know it. What Biden just did today by signing another $739 billion spending bill is going to help collapse everything. It's coming, folks. That's why it's important to know how this Northwest Ordinance operates, because when it goes into effect, you need to know how it works and why what is happening is happening. The governors of those states that are appointed by the president will be confirmed by the Congress in accordance to the Northwest Ordinance. Once that is done, then those governors will start working within that state territory area. Indiana, Nevada, California, Oregon, Texas. Those governors within their own territorial area will start working on getting 30,000 people that are of the state constitution age limit for voting. They have to live there for so long. You can't just move from Louisiana into Texas and 2 days later go to the polls and vote. Doesn't work that way. If you have a constitution in your state right now that was adopted by the state prior to 1861, then that is the constitution you will go with. Whatever that constitution says, because under law, that constitution was written and adopted under republic form of government. And that's who we are. If it's written after that, then a new constitution has to be adopted, which means it has to be written, because it was written then under the corporate guidelines. And we accept nothing from the corporation. Day 3 through day 29, 26 days. In step 6, the states and their governors will appoint in each territory their own seats of authority, their senators, their reps. Now, we don't have the 30,000 yet to vote, but they can be appointed to fill a spot, to fill a seat. That's what we are doing. That's what I am doing right now in my justice seat. I may not be that judge in 2 years, but right now I'm filling the seat. Somebody has to physically sit in the seat. That's me. That's the governor. That's the others that are on this call. That's what we're doing. And we're doing it for you, the American people, to hold this republic in place for when the right time comes. Step 7 says, the judges that are appointed by the president and confirmed by the National Congress, that would be the Republic Congress, each state territory which has a former state constitution, and I went through that prior to 1861, you're going to have a judge appointed who's going to oversee that process, make sure that process is carried out under law. Not color of law, actual common law. Step 8 is where we get the 30,000 individuals. Now, at this point in time, it's not going to take long to get them, because you're not going to have the corporation interrupting. Remember, they're in hiding. They went underground. And you can go to your Bible in Amos and Isaiah, and you can read what happens to those who go underground to hide themselves from he who sits upon the throne. They give their wealth to the moles and the bats. As sure as you're sitting there listening to me now, they will go underground. They will never, ever come out. God will see to that. That's a day that we can all stand up and shout glory, hallelujah, to he who sits on the throne. Once the governors, the judges, the senators, and the reps and the state secretary is in position, then they can apply for statehood through the Republic. The 30,000 that come will vote for their representatives in accordance to the Constitution. Now let me explain that. Right now we're going in accordance to the Northwest Territory. You have to start somewhere. The Northwest Territory allows us to start. But once we get started and the state fulfills its obligations, then the people of that state will vote and conduct their own business to appoint certain positions according to their constitution, but they will vote for their governor, their senators, their reps, their state secretary, their judges. They'll vote for everything. But they need 30,000 in accordance to law. And like I said, businesses will be in operation, but there's no money flow. Where's the money coming from? Well, that's for the upper leadership to deal with. There are nations in line right now who have said that they will give us funding when that day comes. Not until. In the early days, there were some that tried to give us some, and it got intercepted and stolen. That'll never happen again. We will be stood up. Then we will have assets in this country: oil, coal, gold, silver, iron ore. People, you will not be an asset for monetary value. Not in the Republic. You might be under Bill Clinton, Executive Order 32223, but you're not now. You won't be in the Republic. I can promise you that. The money will be guaranteed by gold. We will be gold and silver back. You won't have to worry about, is it worth anything? Yeah, it'll be worth something. But you won't have the multi-billionaires like you have today, because all the money that they're sitting on is just air. There's nothing there. It looks like it, but it's not. And one day they're going to find out that their massive amounts of wealth are nothing. And it's you, the people today, that will then become the rich in this country, because you have life, liberty, and justice. And you will have what the Constitution guarantees you in all aspects. You won't have the groups, the secret societies running the show. That's why we have a militia, if you get my meaning. The militia is more than just a group of people that sit in their homes waiting for something bad to happen. They will be called by the state governors at that time, and this land will be cleansed. I want to make that point very clear. The Bible says in order for Him, the Creator, to bless a nation, the nation must be cleansed. How do you do that? You get rid of the sin, you get rid of the filth, you get rid of the adultery, you get rid of the gods that don't belong. Moloch, the god of abortion. Well, that first step has just happened. Next, we got to stop it completely, because there will be no giving human child sacrifice to Moloch. That's why your child cartons with all the children's faces are on it all the time. They come up missing. I almost guarantee you they were sacrificed. It's horrible. That's why there's child trafficking. Use them, abuse them, and then sacrifice them. That's the corporation. That will not happen in the Republic. Why? Because the Republic has a set of rules in it that is self-checked. You know who checks the government? You do. You know who has the right to abolish a government that is working under tyranny? You do. That holds true right now. That's why what the governor said about last week is so important. We had major things take place last week. And that's just the opening of the door. We haven't even begun to walk into the room yet. God's moving. This republic is about to get stood up, people. And you need to be a part of it. You will be a part of it one way or the other. Either because you want to be or because you're forced to be because you live in this country. But in the end, everybody's going to be in the republic. Get involved now. Understand who and what we are and why we are. Because we're more than just a government. We're a mouthpiece of the people, and we're a mouthpiece of those people to a God and a Creator in heaven. And we're a mouthpiece of that God and Creator in heaven to you, the people. Because we believe in Yahweh. We believe in His Son, Yeshua. We believe in His Holy Spirit. We believe in His laws and His law form. And we execute His law form. And there's no room for any other worldly type religion in this nation. Muslim, gone. Islamic, gone. Arab, gone. Unless you want to convert to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you can't hold a seat in our government. Now, you can live here. You need to understand the rules and the laws we go by are from the Holy Scriptures, not the Quran, not any other Bible written on this planet, except His Word. That is who we are, folks. And we need you to be a part of this. We need to get stood up as quickly as we can. And if you don't believe me, just take a look for 10 minutes on the 6 o'clock news and tell me that's what you want for your government. Because I'll tell you, I see it and I get sick. Governor?
What a wonderful explanation of the road ahead. And it's important that we all have a target and we understand the lawful way of achieving the goal. And I don't know how it can be laid out any better. Joseph, I know you got some people that we want to bring on.
It's just not my platform here. It's all your platforms also out there that have to partake in this or should partake in this. You don't have to do anything. This is America. You're free to do as you choose. But we would like to see other platforms out there also invite Roger, Jim, and other people of the Republic and explain to the American people what's going on, because it's so hard to get all the voices condensed. But real quick, a real brief history here of what Roger was talking about, what others have been talking about I was part of many meetings back in 2009, 2010, where I sat down with Ron Paul, other senators, other legislators throughout the country, and with the de jure republic and the grand jury process that was beginning at that time, where we were training the grand jurors, and we served all 50 governors. And I remember sitting down with several military leaders, many groups of Navy SEALs, special operations, special ops groups with the military, and some are listening here tonight, and they have been throughout the last few weeks. And what Roger was talking about, what had happened back in 2009, 2010, we know the transition there with Obama and the Obama nation that had happened with the criminal conduct that Obama did, and how the Republic was attacked and infiltrated and splintered apart and isolated, like Sarge talks about many times. Sarge, military vet, who comes on here a lot, has a great voice now when he comes on, participates. And it's so very important for others like Sarge to participate and bring your groups and people to this platform and other platforms so we can educate the American people, because education is an ongoing process. We have to keep pushing and keep making people understand what is happening, what the future is going to hold. Now, what Roger was saying, now, by all means, we're just in a dictatorship here. This is the Republic. This is the country. You're free to do as you so choose. America is a land of opportunity and freedom, and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Everyone's going to have that opportunity. I think that's what he meant to say. Nobody's going to be forced to believe in one single thing or told this isn't going to be Nazi Germany, okay? So, but we're trying to restore the Republic and re-inhabit the Republic and re-inhabit our de jure form of government. And we're trying to do it lawfully and peacefully, and that's what needs to be done. Otherwise, we're heading on like a freight train, heading towards another freight train, and there's going to be a big collision. And we don't want that. We don't want violence, and by no means do we condone any type of violence. And when we bring militia people or militia platforms onto this podcast or other platforms in the future, or with the Republic, and say they're not with the Republic or they're helping us pursue the Republic and teach the people, we get that red flag, or other people get that red flag. Oh, militia, violence. No. We do not condone any type of violence whatsoever. Let's put that out there and make sure everybody understands. Has nothing to do with violence. We're here to educate and re-inhabit our de jure lawful form of government, and that's what the founders wanted us to keep our republic, but we have lost it. And we all know the history lesson. We don't have to go over it and over and over it again. Okay?
I want to share a little conversation I had with God. I've been accused of having an attitude by some counselors that I was getting some counseling from because of a marriage going bad. So I was accused of having an attitude. So I thought, well, I really need to examine this. So I went home and prayed about it and asked God, and here's what he told me. He says, you're supposed to reflect me. So you're supposed to be a reflection of my love, my grace, my mercies. But you're also supposed to enforce my boundaries. Adam and Eve failed, and they suffered the consequences. Humanity was infiltrated. Noah was the last pure blood left, and we saved him and started over again. And, the battle continues. I sent my son to put an end to this, but we're still struggling to get to the end. Obviously, that demonstrates that enforcing your values sometimes takes an attitude. And I'll leave it at that.
Actually, I was extremely grateful for Justice Waters to actually explain that, because Jim Carpenter and I were actually having a very similar discussion just a day or so ago about, because I'm a test pilot, right? I'm a retired test pilot. I'm a very checklist approach kind of gal. And so, I do this, and then I do this, and then I do that. And so I'm thinking through this. Okay, tomorrow everything happens like we're expecting and hoping it will. And so then what? So now we have 120 days. Okay, I understand that part. But now who is the mayor? Who is the county commissioner? Who is the sheriff? Who is the senator? And all that. And the states that don't have any of that set up yet. Who appoints them? Where does that authority come from? And so Justice Waters just answered a whole bunch of those questions for me. So I'm very grateful for that.
Great.
That the main issue is going to be that we're supposed to be able to rely upon the sheriff. And I would say 90% of them out there are completely unreliable and need to be taken out. But how in the world are we going to do that if we would go to the sheriff in order to do that? And so we're going to have a real chaotic situation on our hands on that first day of the 120.
Sandy, can I stop you right there for a second?
Yes, sir. I was pretty much done.
Thank you for letting me butt in, but let's address that before we go any further. Justice Waters, please. My opinion I gave to Sandy was that, like when we set up the Republic and established the right for people to elect people like yourself and myself to represent them in our various positions, those people that we were already in place in the de facto were actually issued an opportunity by flag officers to resign their position as de facto and come on board as Republic, were they not?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's what gave us the opportunity then, because they refused to stand up and fill their position and take a new oath. So would that principle still be applicable then with our county sheriffs?
It'd be applicable for any position anywhere in this country. There are a few exceptions on time limits, though. Some of the positions, like senators, representatives, those in the three-branch government itself, they would have to wait a year to be trained on what the Republic is, since they've been operating in a corporate-type government for all their lives. But, Sandy, when you get down to your level where you live, let's just take, for instance, somebody who works in a factory, and you've got your CEO of the factory. He won't be able to hold a position in the Republic, but maybe 2 levels down, those are just employees. They may be high up, but all they do is go to work for a paycheck. They're going to be able to change their allegiance to the Republic, hold their hand up and give the oath, and go to work. So that's where that position lays.
The issue, Roger, where money came into this, actually, I'm glad you brought this up also, is that this was a big issue. I remember back in 2009, 2010, where we had about 24 special ops and Navy SEALs that were going to protect a lot of the people in the Republic. And while we went through this training process to start appointing people and then have our free elections, however, money became the big issue, and it was like $45 billion or something that was going to be needed to secure the entire restructuring of the Republic and the United States with everything that was going on. And because this was all going in motion, people need to understand this. This was a real thing that was going to happen. And that was another thing that had came up. I know I always talk about, what would happen if the general or somebody in the military got up on the 6 o'clock news and said, hey, everybody, this is what's going on. There would be panic and chaos in the streets of America. That training process, like you said, and the slow infiltration, that's where the 10-year thing came in. They said, everyone got together and they said, well, how long is this going to take? It would take 10 years to fully implement this plan, the Restore America plan. That's what it was called in the beginning. And it just fell apart because of the Obama administration, and then we had the lone wolves out there who were idiots, and then you have the people out there who think they're going to cash in their birth certificate and become millionaires, and they want to stop paying their mortgages, and we had all that to deal with. So it was a big, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We live and learn, and we're trying to, learn from the mistakes of the past and make sure that nobody's going to conduct any violence or do anything stupid, because that's not what this is about, because you're going to have people that are going to resist this. They're going to stand up against this,
Let me share a different point of view on that point you just made, Joe. As we've talked before, life's like a diamond, and what makes a diamond is all its different facets, and a diamond looks different from different facets, and those points of view, the same thing. So let me share a different point of view. You said that the 10-year plan and all that had fallen apart. I disagree with you. And I can't go deeper. I've gone deeper in past shows. Can't go there no more. It hasn't fallen apart, folks. And our reality is about to change. And we got to
the 10-year plan obviously wasn't implemented, and it didn't come to fruition. Otherwise, we'd be talking a different scenario right now. So I understand what you're saying by not falling apart.
We're at the end of it. We haven't experienced the victory yet, but we need to be prepared to achieve our goal, and we're not. And that's what concerns me, because if this is of, for, and by the people are about ready to get loaded with this responsibility, and we don't have a recognized, established framework which the Constitution gives us in place. And the people are playing catch-up. And that's why we're having these calls now, because the people need to catch up, because our reality is coming forth. So I want to change your point of view on what you said, Joe.
Yeah, it came out the wrong way, but I understand what you're saying. But I'm talking from someone who was there, and meaning by falling apart, from people that was maybe that you're trying to talk to. It's not falling apart. The structure is still there. I understand what you're saying.
A lot of us have suffered. Judges have been killed in their driveways, assassinated by police officers for knowing how to beat the court system. Billy Fouts down in Arizona, we've suffered greatly, and a lot of those people, they took out our leaders, because that's who you take out. If you want to kill a system, you take out the leaders. And we're the ones that have managed to keep our heads down and keep the keys. Of course.
Sandy, while we got you, I know you're very busy, and we always appreciate someone of your stature and background joining us here on this podcast. But it's ever so important that we do have people like yourself and more like yourself joining in and willing to come forward. Like I said, I do have some people listening in from the military, and anyone who knows who's in the military, who's active duty, they cannot things cannot be said, or they cannot discuss something like this. If you're calling in from Fort Hood, Texas, you're not going to be able to to get on here. You're taking a huge chance. So let's just put it that way. But I do appreciate those fellas that are listening right now. But it's so very important. Real quick, Sandy, what have you been discussing this with anyone behind closed doors, or anyone in the open about what's going on with the Republic, or any ideas or anything that maybe you can offer, maybe here that you're at liberty to discuss with the people that are listening right now?
Well, I've been for the whole time that I've been associated with the Republic, I've been talking about the Republic. I actually took it a step further in one of the we call it a Patriot all-call meeting in the Colorado Springs area, where all the Patriot groups and all the members come together to pretty much compare notes. What have you guys been doing, et cetera. And so at one of these meetings, I asked a favor. I said, I am asking you all a favor to please sign up for the Republic newsletter, because we've got to get to this 30,000 number per state. And once we do that, then we let the Republic do what they've said they're going to do. We need to give them that chance. And they listened to me. So I think we had a whole lot of people sign up for that newsletter that night, and then they told two friends, just like the shampoo.
I just want to say, to make this plan happen, we're going to need God on our side. It's going to have to be part of God's plan, which it is. So we're going to have to do it in unity. So we're going to have direction. And I know the American people throughout history have been great in a crisis. You're talking about the wars, World War I, World War II. People pulled together. And I mean, people would, my dad was in a metal shop, and during that time, people would come in and volunteer just to run a drill press or something, to make implements of war, unfortunately. But I know people can pull together. They just have to have this common ground and this common understanding, and they have to be able to put fear away and rely on each other a little bit, trust each other, and not be super critical of what somebody says and stuff. Just have to be focusing on the main event, so to speak.
Thank you so much. I think what it is, though, is that when we're critical, is we have to be careful. That's unfortunately, you're right. That's what we have to lead ourselves into the future of doing. But in today's spectrum, or political forum, or podcasting, or putting it out there, everyone is so touchy-feely, or what they say, you're absolutely right, but that's the world we live in. So we have to be careful when we spread a message, because if you say the wrong thing, you're done. You're just, that's it, and you get buried,
Yeah, Joe, you're right. But let's look at the fruit of the tree. In other words, the cold hard facts. I wanted to talk about the flag committee. I know my friend, associate Robert, was on the flag committee and chaired it. And our flag committee came up with a flag for our republic. I fly one over my property, and it establishes my jurisdiction and my authority, and that's recognized internationally. It's interesting that they monitor our phone calls. They've sent drills to take us down. planted disinformation and confusion amongst us to divide us, to arrest our president. They know who our flag is, folks. Believe me. They're listening to this call tonight. And our flag is not on the list of the ones to be afraid of that just came out in the last week or two. Isn't that interesting? So based on what I just led into, your comment on that, Justice Waters.
Well, Governor, you know, what does a flag really represent? I mean, what's the purpose of it? We learn in the military that the flag or the ensign is the cloth part of telling the rest of the world who we are. It is actually you. An ensign, when it flies on a flagpole, what it is doing, it's telling everybody that the land that surrounds this flag belongs to this nation. That's why when you have different embassies in like D.C., you can walk down the street and see 3 different embassies, and each one flies their flag. And when you go through that gate, you're on their soil. So when you fly our republic flag on your land, where you live, you are telling everybody that you are under the republic form of government. But it goes one step further. The reason they can't touch it is because they've never done away with the Constitution. They've never done away with the Bill of Rights. They've never done away with the Declaration of Independence. And therefore, that flag is technically, under law, the only lawful flag that represents the Republic.
Justice Waters, can you explain what the gold fringe means? So we got a question in the chat room there, what the gold fringe means on the American flag.
Technically, what it means is that it's part of the corporation. It's not republic. It actually is a military flag. They use those flags in parades. Now get this, in parades and at the general's headquarters on any military base. That's the only place those flags under U.S. code are to be flying. Okay? So when you find one of those in your courtroom, in your church, and they're in every 501c3 church in America, every school has those flags. Wherever there's a U.S. flag flying, it will have a gold fringe around it. It simply means they have confiscated the land, the ability to maneuver. You are no longer on the land. You are on the sea. You are maritime, and they control you. You are a straw man. Yes, you heard me right. You are a straw man. There is 2 of you. There is the flesh and blood you, which they kind of set aside, and then there's that fake one, that straw man, that they do all the business through. That's why when you get a bill from a credit card company, it's all, your name's all in capital letters. But when they send you a credit card offer, take a look at your name. It's upper and lower case. Why is that? Because to them, you're not a straw man yet. But once you accept it and they accept you, then you become their straw man. And they do business through you.
Gotcha.
So
another question.
That's what that flag represents.
Okay.
So
we got
Justice
that.
Waters, in essence, when I took an oath and swore to uphold the Constitution and to stand with the Republic and fly their flag, then essentially, in those 2 steps, I disengaged from the corporation except in adhesion contracts like my Social Security and my Medicare, whatever, which are still owed to me. But I find my flag, and this is the Republic's jurisdiction on my property. So I essentially gained all of that in just 2 simple steps. Am I right?
In theory, you're right, yeah. In paperwork, you're not, because they still own you.
Yeah.
If they say you own your property, you really don't own it. If you have an automobile with a state tag on it, you don't own that. State does.
Well,
I mean, that's how they get.
I believe in the laws of nature. Nature's God. And it tells me that I can't take my wealth with me to the hereafter. And so a dead entity doesn't own nothing, if you get my drift.
Okay, Jim, I got, for Justice Waters, got a question here, another question somebody asked. What should the people who are awake, who are on this call, who have been on this call, what should they be doing right now or tomorrow or as soon as this call is over? Now, before you answer that, I understand that all of us are not going to be doing the same thing because there's different categories of different levels of where we are at being educated, positions in the military, positions as in politics, what have you. So maybe you can answer that question in general, or I know it would take forever to do it to put everybody in individual orders, but what should people be doing?
That was a
they should be getting online, going to the Republic for the United States of America.org and reading through that, seeing what we are all about, read all the different laws that the Republic had passed in its first 2 years. There's a lot of material on there. They need to get involved. They need to become a part of this Republic. And, there's books that Governor Henning will tell you about that they can get, and if they want to be a serious part of this Republic and hold a seat, all they really need to do is sign up and get the books and read those books, and then they're going to be eligible in whatever state they live in to be a part of this Republic. And
you're talking about the books Re-Inhabited.
Yeah,
you're talking about Re-Inhabited by the Hurtlers, Re-Inhabited 101 and whatnot. Okay, which, of course, which everyone knows, any job or any position that you hold in life has to have training. You have to have training, and you have to, know what you're doing. We can't have, Dr. Seuss up there, as a governor in Texas. You got to know what you have to be of more moral and good character. It's just the basics. It's common sense, like common law. So for anyone that's out there who's sending me feedback right now, also what they saw in the chat room.
Hey, this is Sally. Yeah. We got to take action on the things we can be doing, making some indent right now, like this ESG thing, which I put out there in the chat. We've got this other company out there, Strive. They are out there. They're going to provide options around. They're trying to, right now, they're up to like $100 million. They need like $1 billion to be truly competitive with some of the other banks that are playing all these games. So we've got to really support those that believe in the free market society and not all this socialism and everything else. So if you can, whether it's your own investments or move it or do whatever, to try to shut down the banks that are doing all this ESG stuff. I don't know how familiar everybody on this call is with ESG, but it's not a good thing. How familiar do you think, how much do you want to go into what ESG really is, and BlackRock, what they are, and stuff like that? Because these are the ones that are undermining the whole system with the finances. These are the ones that are trying to buy up the home so that you get to live in a shack someplace or on the street in a tent, whatever. So I think it's over 20 states now have got some type of legislation to go out there and change what's going on with ESG. So you've got to contact your state representatives and governors and demand that they do something to block, take their money out, take all the pension plans. Just alone, you think about taking the money from the state pension plans out of these banks that are corporations, investments that have anything to do with ESG, and put them into this other group, which is to help the fossil fuel industry as well, because they're trying to help finance what they need because they can't get it the other way, kind of stuff. We will put such a hurt in their system. Follow the money kind of thing. It really would be in this, if you want to, we talked a lot about whether this is how peaceful we can make this. This is something very peaceful to do. Move your money from the corrupt socialist group over to the freedom group, which is this one here. There may be other ones out there now. I've just been hearing a lot about this one lately, and I think it literally started up like within the last couple of weeks, and they're already up to $100 million, I think it is. $100 million, and they're needing $1 billion to be what they would be considered fully competitive. So don't support socialism. And we got to do everything we can to not support the socialism. And then this other stuff when it comes to the, does anybody want to talk anything further about the ESG? Or how much do people know about it? What are their thoughts on it?
I'm not sure, but that's something that I know you did a podcast on, but that's something I'm not sure how important that is right now. I mean, it is important, very important, but how important it is as far as moving forward with the Republic right now, right this second, but it's something we have to deal with. I mean, what do you think? Can you give us a couple minutes to maybe give us a brief synopsis for the new people out there who don't have any clue what it is, maybe?
Yeah, it stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance. They're going to use... when a corporation goes to get a loan for something, they're going to look and say, well, what type of people? Do you have the right diversity on your board? Do you have the right diversity of people working in your organization? Do you have enough transgenders working in your organization? Your score, your credit score, social score, and environmental score, it's all going to be part of these different things. Then they're going to decide whether you really deserve the money. They will deny you a loan because you don't have the right diversity, or you're using fossil fuels when they think you should be using electric cars, or whatever it may be. This is all going to be part of your score. They're going to manipulate and dictate behavior by doing this kind of stuff, by controlling the money based on your behavior. And this is also going to be, this ties into the electric cars and all this other stuff. They want to limit your movement. This is a perfect example of how your freedom is being taken away from you right in front of you. And most people, I'm telling you, you talk to these candidates. Last night we were talking, and I know it's got to be at least 50%. I think Karen, one of the two Karens, said probably more like 70% of those people running for office today, especially when it comes to the state and the federal level, do not know what ESG is. They have no clue. BlackRock is part of the World Economic Forum, part of the master money. BlackRock owns and controls the money of the world. And if you think money doesn't play a role in what we're trying to do here, well, you'd be mistaken, because money has a very big part.
It does. You're absolutely correct. No, you're absolutely correct. It does. Yeah, money is. I texted Jim actually earlier today, or yesterday actually, about that. The money is going to be a big factor, because I think Mr. Binder, or Mr. Henning, we talked about this a few months ago, where he said he would mail out letters to all the sheriffs, and basically one sheriff finally did respond to him, and he said, he's going to go where his paycheck is going, so that's it. So, and we understand that people have families to support, and they think, the electricity, they think the water's going to keep running through the faucets like it is, and the lights are going to keep turning on and off, and they think they're going to make enough, and the inflation's going to keep them just where they got to be. And, people are, look, it's not going to be that way. This new world order that they are coming and formulating right before our very eyes is going to pull the rug out from each and every one of you out there listening right now. I don't care where you are, who you are, what position you have. You will be directly affected, and you will be controlled. And and this is a nightmare. The nightmare is going to be hell on earth.
Because comparing this to what COVID did, remember the game they played with COVID? Yeah, and it was Fauci who said it. Well, we're not going to make people do it. We're going to tell the corporations to do it. So then the corporations played the game, and you talk about fascism. It was the corporations who were doing all the dictating. You can't work here unless you're vaccinated and all those kind of things. So these were the other games that they played on this stuff. And, I mean, the two things are very similar, how they're undermining us indirectly. They're taking control very indirectly. And then, of course, now, whenever after the other comments, we definitely have to talk about what's going on with this IRS stuff and arming these IRS agents. They're creating a military force. And this is another thing. What are you going to do between now and 2023, or what are we going to do to stop what they are doing with that IRS military group they're putting together? And this goes back to what Obama said about creating his own military. So I'll stop there and let some other people chime in.
Okay. I'm sure that most of us on this call at some time or other enjoyed comic books or whodunits or Agatha Christie or James Bond or, cowboy movies, John Wayne, all those movies that made you sit in your pants and you're anticipating what was going to happen next. Well, let's just kind of play that game for a minute. And I want to share the comic book that I'm reading. And it says that the reason that all these nations around the world have been going into turmoil and things happen within their nations and changes of regimes and a lot of things, and we don't have time to go down all the rabbit holes, but it's been prevalent for the last couple of years if you've been watching. And you start comparing and looking at all the things going on, and it seems to me that the world awakening is happening, and that they've joined forces to take down the common enemy, which is the worldwide mafia, as described earlier. So in this process, that includes all the tentacles. And so really what you're talking about is jurisdiction. So if you're working for a company or a government or an agency that requires a mask or a jab or whatever, then you're in their jurisdiction, and that's their right to request that. So on the other hand, once the world recognized jurisdiction is occupied by living beings in mass, then the moral and just people, like what Ben Franklin said, this form of government will not work for any other nation in the world because it is based upon biblical principles that mandate that each and every individual must hold himself above reproach. And when we allow the government to set our moral standards for us, we'll find we're no better off than any other nation in the world. So again, he was referring to two different jurisdictions here. Government's jurisdiction, the ones we talk about, the ones we try to get entangled from with all the paperwork and all the filings and all this stuff. And all we want to do is live in God's jurisdiction. And that's what the Republic is. And it's recognized by the world. Our right to be here is recognized by the world. And so instead of going after all the branches of the tree, you just step out of the tree and go into the other tree, the tree of knowledge. And you change jurisdiction. And it's that simple, folks. And once we come in mass in that way, then who's going to be left in the other jurisdiction? Because the other jurisdiction is self-destructive. It's evil. They abort their babies. They try to change their sexes. They cut themselves. They're full of angry. It takes 2.3 offspring per household to sustain a society. So how long is that society still going to be with us? Bear in mind that we gave birth to those people in that other jurisdiction. It chose to be there. And we still need to take care of them and be human and do the best we can to make sure that our jurisdiction is protected from theirs and they don't interfere with our lives. But we got to allow them to live out their existence according to their choices, as the Bible tells us that we have to do. So to me, that's the comic book I'm reading.
My name is Ryan Arney. I'm calling from down here in the LA, Lower Alabama. I discovered your guys' website, maybe not more than, I'm talking about the Republic for the United States of America website, about 2 or 3 days ago, because I'm on a few Telegram groups for Alabama State Nationals. People that are on there are largely following people like David Lester Straight and Bobby Lawrence, who are leading people out of the commerce or the water or the contract world, if you will, of the birth certificate world back onto the land by doing the affidavits of repudiation and whatnot. So they're doing, maybe you guys know who they are, they're doing all these seminars, so the word's kind of getting out there, getting people back on the land to change, their jurisdiction into, the land, common law.
Yes,
well,
sir.
So that's how I discovered you, and I really enjoyed the website and the information there, especially the executive summary. I didn't know about it. But my question is that you guys have done clearly a lot of impressive work to try to reestablish the de jure government. But I've also heard of other efforts out there, like this Anna Von Wright, though I haven't followed her. I've heard of her through David Lester Straight, and a lot of people don't recommend kind of listening to her methods and what she's doing. But she's also establishing state governments at each state level. And then David Straight and his wife, Bonnie Straight, are involved in the government for the new Republic of Texas. And what David Lester Straight and Bobby Lawrence have said is they already established 2 states, Missouri and Texas, through the the 23 or 24 person, maybe it was 25 person grand jury process that they quoted the Magna Carta with that process. So
Yep.
I don't know too much about that. You guys probably know it way better than I do. My question though is, I see all these different efforts out there. Everybody's got the same pretty much goal, is to get rid of the corporate scam and reestablish the republic. But how do you guys see uniting all these efforts as one? And maybe because there might be slight differences of how you guys see this constitutional law thing can get quite complicated or confusing, or can get a lot of different ideas of how to reestablish things.
Yeah.
So I would think that we need to kind of get everybody on the same sheet of music, for lack of better words.
That's what we're doing, brother. That's what we're doing. That's what we're attempting to do right now.
Do you know about all these ones I've been talking about? Are you guys coordinating with them?
I personally am. I know of a couple of that you had mentioned there. I've been in contact with a few across the country. Yes, and what you just described and what you just said right there is basically 100% of the problem that we're having and have had throughout the many, many years that I've been involved with the Patriot community and whatnot. And that's what the Republic is here trying to solve, and has been trying to solve, in restoring and reuniting and re-inhabiting the lawful de jure government of our country that the founders envisioned. And that's what we're doing. And thank you for participating in the call and coming aboard. And hopefully you will sign up for the newsletter. And we have, and just a brief recap here, just real briefly here, I was a part of many of the sit-downs and meetings back a dozen years ago, 15, 12 years ago. I can't believe how fast time is going by. With the military, Ron Paul, I sat down. I always say that name because everyone's familiar with that name. But there were many others that were in the meetings. Several that I had in southeast of this country here. One big meeting we had was in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. That's where Ron Paul came into that one. And remember they had the projector screen up, and we had a crowd of about 450 people there, and going over all the history, going through a quick educational lesson of how we got to where we're at right now, because if we don't recognize we have a problem and we don't recognize how we got here, then we're never going to fix it. And then we have to have a plan, and you have to stick to that plan. And we can't all be chiefs. We don't need any more chiefs. We need all the Indians out there. We need everyone to because really it's up to the individual also. You know that old famous saying, it's not what your country can do for you, it's what you can do for it. So, we all have to take individual responsibility and have that accountability, that liberty, that responsibility that comes with it. And your responsibility, sir, I'm sure you are well aware of. You're obviously educated, smart, and dedicated. So, participating together like we're doing now is so very important, in networking together. And it's not just this platform, my platform. It's everybody that's out there, like you said. You mentioned a key point. Everybody's out doing their own individual thing. And we have to be careful, because heads will swell, and then you'll get your lone wolves out there who will take advantage, or corruption will infiltrate their rankings, and security will be breached and broken down, and we're going to have what we had during the Obama administration. We'll have two gentlemen getting pulled over by a police officer who will have a license plate with a paper plate on their car saying, "I'm free," and then they get into a gun battle, and next thing you know, we're on the 6 o'clock news as a hate group. So we cannot allow that to happen. We have to be very wise, prudent, and of course, God is so very important. We can't do anything without God. Our founders were very spiritual, moral men, and we have to make sure that morality and that level of morality stays instituted amongst ourselves, in our hearts, and our minds, and our souls, and our bodies. You understand? And it's so very important.
I do. This is just something that Jim Carpenter and Roger Waters thought up one night over a beer. You were part of this process, as you said, Joe. There were hundreds of committees with thousands of participants that brought this country and brought our republic back, and opened up the Congress and allowed us to start working as a people again. And the grass fire was growing by leaps and bounds until they divided it. And when that happened, people still wanted to have the same target, but it was a leadership, it was a political, it was a decoy by the deep state to split us. And so people say, well, you went back to the 1871 era when the corporation took over. Well, we're going to go back to the Magna Carta. Well, then they just eliminated the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Well, the Bill of Rights is really important, folks. But, they thought they'd one-up us. It's not about personal things. It's about the facts. The facts are that the grassroots people file these documents on your behalf at the world level, and there's a thing in law called first in line, first in time, and it still applies.
Let me ask you guys something. I haven't been doing it as long as you guys. I'm a retired Army guy, right? I'm actually still working for the evil empire, if you will. Sorry, I'm just
no, that's
trying
fine.
to get by,
no.
right?
Hey,
so
yeah.
Didn't mean it. My apologies to American State Nationals out there. I'm going to be with you one day, but I'm going to finally live up to my oath, right? But anyway, it seems to me that the first step is exactly what David Lester Straight and Bobby Lawrence are pushing. Get people to change their status first through the affidavit of repudiation and then getting your passport, whatnot. And what I've heard from Bobby Lawrence as early as last week, and it seems to me most people are following these guys on Telegram. So that's where it's at. It's not on the general internet, it's on Telegram. But Bobby Lawrence said last week they're projecting about 10 million by the end of the year, American State Nationals. Supposedly the U.S. Department of State had to bring in a bunch of 40-foot containers outside to basically store all these affidavits that are coming their way because they don't have enough room for them because it's spreading like wildfire. So
may I show you what I just saw?
What you guys have done.
Hang on, Jim. Let me finish. Hang on. Go ahead. Good, sir. I'm sorry.
But to your guys' credit, so I think they're handling the low-level individuals, getting enough, like you guys said in one of your calls, you need 30,000 per state or something just to redo the election in each state or something like that. I think that their effort is doing well there. What I was impressed with your guys' website is just the plan to restore everything. Well, you already got the name. You even got a new flag, that new flag with the circle stars with 50 stars, Yeah. And it looks like you guys got that organized very well. But if you don't tie the two together, I don't know if it's going to work.
Agreed.
Because, I'm seeing your website. There's this I didn't know about till 2 days ago. There's a President Geiger. I didn't know about this dude. So, because you know what David Straight says in his conferences, he claims that Trump took two oaths. He took the oath to the corporation and the oath to the republic. Biden comes in.
Do you remember when he was sworn in? Yeah. Well, you remember when Trump was sworn in? He told the American people what about your republic has been restored. I'm giving it back to you. It's yours. Yeah. But it's we don't pay attention. We don't listen. We're too busy distracted. We're all trying to stay alive. I played it in my intro. After all, what can one person do?
Have you guys read the second Declaration of Independence that he signed that was validated by Melania's tweet on July 4th, 2020? Did you read the second Declaration of Independence yet?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't.
Well, see, that's what David Lester Straight, he read it. He's got, in his conferences, he said he's got Trump on speed dial on one of his phones. And he said Missouri and Texas are going to start getting funding from an outside corporation, outside source that's helping us. So you guys need
this is somebody I'd like to speak to personally. This is somebody I'd like in contact with or have them, where we can have a private call.
Because otherwise, all that grinding you guys did, maybe, I don't know if it will be worthless, but they may not know. But I look at your
they do know.
Man, you
they
guys
do
been
know.
grinding for a good amount of time. You guys need some cred. You got the street cred.
Yeah, well, they do know. Trust me, we are recognized, and trust me, it is, and it's a behind-the-scenes effort that is re-inhabited and that has re-inhabited and restored awful de jure republic. But it's up to the people. It's yours. It's there.
That's right.
But you have to take it, and and that's the message we're trying to do right now. And
he's got the same message. So what he's doing, what they're doing, Strait and Lawrence largely, they are getting enough American state nationals. Bobby Lawrence said that the people they're dealing with in the military, I think it's all the JSOC guys or something, that or somebody else, that they told them, hey, now your mission set is going to shift and lift and start changing to reestablishing all the states. Get the states together. But I look at your guys, some of yours, maybe you guys have already done that in some states. I don't know.
We actually did. We have, actually. Roger, would you like to take a piece of this, please? Interject here, please, Roger.
Sure. By the way, I just read the second declaration since you mentioned that. I just got finished reading it. It's not long.
Well, no, it's about 6 pages long.
You know, everything that you mentioned about all these other groups, we've already accomplished. We've already been through it. We've already done it. The only person that you mentioned that we would advise to stay away from is Anna, simply because she's a corporate judge, supposedly, and she will lead you right down to the path of prison.
Yes, sir. I'm tracking that, so I haven't even looked into that. My point of bringing her up was, as you guys know, she's got a lot of people hooked. You know, she did a good job of hooking some people, and a lot of people have gotten in trouble.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, and now, David Lester Strait will tell you. He said, go look at his Out of Babylon conference on Rumble or YouTube. David Strait, Out of Babylon. It's like 6 parts. It's a 3-day seminar split up in 6 parts. But one of the parts, he says that he was on the helicopter on July 2nd, 2020, at the top of Mount Rushmore with JFK Jr.
Okay.
I'm going
to look into it. I'm going to look into that.
And he said, I asked him in his conference, face to face, man to man, only me and him. I said, and he wasn't lying to me, I don't think. I said, what does he look like? He said, well, he kind of looks the same as you last remember me. He may have a little bit more gray hair now. He's a little older, but yeah. And he claims that I'm going to investigate. The vice president of the republic. That's what he said in his conference. I'm just telling you what he said. Whether you believe it or not.
No, that's understandable. But let's not focus on that. Because all that's irrelevant right now. You know, let's talk about what we do know. Because we can always talk about what we don't know or what we may think we know. You know, what's important is what we do know. And right now, I do know President Geiger is the president of the republic right now. And like you said, the painstaking work and hours of work and many years of dedication and hard work for you and for everyone else is the work that's been done by a lot of men and women in the republic and people that are here now on the call line. And that's what's so very important. You know, and again, we can't be distracted or become divided on what ifs and what's not. You know, we have to make sure we pay attention to here and now and what our future plan is and where it's going to be and where it's going to take us. Because we can become so divided so fast, and the American people are selfish, spoiled little brats. And that's how we've always been for a little while now. And it's a shame because we have so many resources and the world looks at us. You know, the world is a stage. I'm sure you heard that. And we're center front on that stage. And we are embarrassing ourselves by allowing this joke of a corporation, this de facto corporation that's destroying us from within. And the Federal Reserve evil cartel that monopolizes our currency that we trade and barter with every day because we're a slave to them. You know, and that's a shame. But we don't have to go over that. We know where we're at right now. You know, and we don't have to insult everybody. I'm just trying to explore the facts here with you. And I appreciate your call. But where do you see yourself now? Are you going to participate? Are you willing to come forward and sign up for the newsletter?
Well, of course, I wrote. I think I didn't catch your name. I dialed in late, but what was it? Governor Henning, Wisconsin.
My name is Joseph Gibson, but yeah.
Yeah, you know Henning. I forget his first name.
Yep.
I just got his email.
Yeah, he's on the call.
But I don't know if okay. I appreciate. Hey, boss, Governor, appreciate the email. But
I'm glad you joined us, Stephen. Thank you.
I'm gonna sign up and. All I want to do is maybe link you guys up with some of what other people are saying. Maybe we can all eventually get together and link it all together, put it together.
That's what we're trying to do, brother. That's what we're trying to do. We really are. And I do appreciate the call. I really do.
As much as you. Yeah, I don't know nearly as much as you guys, but I'm dialed into the Telegram and all. as many groups as I can just to see what everybody's saying, because I don't like what's happening right now. So,
yeah, well, that's right.
I'm right here
that's
at
right.
an army base, just seeing all these soldiers, one, getting kicked out because they didn't get a shot that kills you.
Okay.
I didn't take that shot, but just seeing these officers, and they see all these soldiers getting injured, they do nothing. They do nothing about it.
Is Sandy still on the phone here, Governor?
Yes, sir.
All right. You want to address this gentleman? Maybe give you a background to who you are. Please introduce yourself to him.
Yeah, so I am a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, test pilot. I'm currently associated with the Republic, learning as fast as I can. I'm in training, I guess. And I'm currently a civilian instructor at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs for a few more days. They're actually trying to fire me, and I'm expecting that paperwork to come down any day now. But anyway, so I listened to everything you said, and I agree with everything you said. I think that Anna von Reis has some things correct, but she's got a couple of things in her process that, like you said, don't sound right, and I think everyone on this call agrees with that. She has written a couple of books under a different name, and she there's a lot of really good info in there. So, that's another possibility. But I think that we don't know when exactly we're going to get our Republic back, when all of the things that on this call that we were talking about, the 120 days, and, if we get the call tomorrow, what happens with all the people who are in the Republic right now. I am actually going through the affidavit process myself with a different person. His process is, I think it's a 12-page affidavit. So I'm trying to do that myself, but I'm getting the runaround from Cook County, Illinois, which is Chicago, which is no surprise.
Yeah.
So I'm going to physically have to drive there and shake them down until they actually give me both copies of my birth certificates so that I can actually finish this process. But that's another story. So I think that because I don't know when all this is going to happen, I am going to go through the affidavit process. I am going to switch my license plate. I am going to use my passport instead. I'm going to switch my passport, all that stuff that you just talked about. I am on that same track. And then if the Republic comes back before I finish the process, amen, I'm on my knees, I'm kissing the ground. But if it takes 10 years, then for 10 years I'm living as a free woman on the land. So I'm with you 100% with everything that you said, essentially.
Thank you, ma'am. Are you still active?
No, I retired in 2007. I went back to school to get my PhD, and I'm teaching physics at the Air Force Academy as a civilian.
Right on. I'm Speed Air Force. I'm a West Point guy, but anyway. I'm right there with you. I'm going to do it too. And I'll tell you, the Lieutenant Colonel Teresa Long, you may have heard of her. She's right here.
Yeah, we're in
Fort
contact
Rucker with me. Yeah, I talk to her every day. I'm the DPW director here, and yeah, both of us are amazed. But I'll tell you, she did get in. She told me, I think she did get in with the new installation CG here. So some of these guys are getting it now. It's a little late, but they're starting to wake up. But
yeah, I think they're starting
enough. I saw a lot
hear
of good soldiers being booted.
Yeah, they're starting to hear the rattling of the cell door right now.
Go ahead, Jim.
Important point of fact. History, and I stand on history and fact. When you go down that road, and I went through the seminar, I sat through everything. I had my box of bond paper, and I looked at the guy who turned out to be my state Supreme Court judge, and I said, I'm not feeling comfortable about this. And he said, thank you. I'm not either. We both got up and left that box of bond paper there in my yard. Those that chose to go down that road. In the years and days afterwards, those people were persecuted relentlessly by the authorities. And in today's world, I look at what you're sharing with me. It makes common sense. I can't argue with your efforts, and I applaud you for going down that, reaching out and doing something positive and peaceful. But in the end, I have to wonder why they just hired 87,000 new Treasury agents. And it was Treasury agents that were a big part of the persecution of the people that I was associated with, that many of now who are in prison because of the paperwork and the things that they started. And so I can't stress how much I want to tell everybody. It's your right. You have the responsibility to self-govern, and you're free to do what you want. But be aware, folks, it does have its pitfalls. And a lot of it is flypaper, as you talked about with Anna von Ritz. And I'm not going to name names. I could, and I could give you a telephone number. And I know a lot about Anna von Ritz from her reliable people. Okay?
Yeah, we don't want to spend too much time on her. Yeah, we know. We already know where.
I'm saying it's flypaper.
But
it's flypaper.
David's
and I
great
can
process
verify it.
Regarding the 87,000 IRS agents. Let's put this in perspective here from a lifelong Army guy. We can't even get enough soldiers to join up now because nobody wants to join this. There's so many shortfalls in the Army now. Nobody wants to join. I don't think there's enough people in the country that want to be an IRS agent. They're not even come close to getting that many. Nobody's going to support this crap. They don't. So screw that. Don't worry about those knuckleheads. Let's change our status. Don't worry about it. We stick together, lock arms, and we fight these people. These evil cabal.
That's correct. And stay focused like a laser beam. I remember real quick years ago, Army veteran Sean Rowe, who came on this podcast. I remember we were putting together a team of Navy SEALs, Green Berets to go over and fight ISIS. And the Obama administration contacted us, and we were on the O'Reilly factor actually, also trying to raise money to go over and fight this ISIS thing because the Obama administration wouldn't do anything, and they came down and said, "You go over there, you won't be coming back." So they broke us apart too. And the reason why I bring that up is because look, this de facto, they understand once we start coming together and we become a force to be reckoned with, even peacefully, they'll pull out the dirty tricks, and like they're doing, like Jim just brought up, these IRS agents, that's what they're there for, and those are the dirty tricks that they're going to try to come after us with and try to shut us down. They're already 8 steps ahead of us, and we have to be careful. A private caller, you want to join in here?
Yeah, Joe, I do kind of like what I'm hearing right now. I'm at the Republic page. I'm going to get on the email list, and I'm going to volunteer whatever skills anybody might think I have that might contribute to this. But there is something I got to say here, and I have a question at the end of what I'd like to say. Now, look, these discussions inevitably involve discussions of the citizen militia, which admittedly is a redundant term because the militia is citizenry. And they are often accompanied by these almost reflexive and given the prevailing zeitgeist, I got to admit, appropriate protestations and denunciations of mindless, illegal, and unfocused violence. And I unequivocally share those sentiments. I want to make that clear before I go any further. I hope that's understood. Now, having said that, I think that I am both factually, in fact, I know I am, factually and historically correct when I say that no government or regional authority in the history of mankind, whether good, bad, or indifferent, has not or does not assure its continued existence and survival upon the use of, either implied, threatened, or agreed upon, the employment of force against its enemies, foreign, domestic, and criminal. I think that is an absolute rule that applies at all times, in all places, to everything that entitles itself a government of any sort. Now, what I want to address here, and it doesn't matter, like I said, it doesn't matter what government it is, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. They're all that, in that respect, they share that nearly identically, that principle. Now, what I want to address here is this wildly disparate level of organized and equipped force between the federal government and the atrophied various state militias in the federal government. I mean, it's wildly disparate. We can all agree on that, I think, for sure. I'm not including the National Guard, either Army or Air National Guard, because both of those entities are reserve components of the United States Air Force and the United States Army. So I'm not including them. I'm talking about state militias in their attribute condition in almost every state. Now, it goes without saying that any employment of state militia forces should be employed judiciously, morally, and wisely. But what is foremost in my mind right now is not just that, because even though that's important, that's not really the issue for me right now. It's the restoration of such forces at least, and historically, militias have always had flaws, compared to regular forces. It was true during the Revolutionary Wars, definitely true during the War of 1812. But that doesn't mean that they're not relevant and not important. But I'm concerned about restoring such forces in the well-regulated sense of the Second Amendment, meaning well-trained, organized, equipped, and disciplined, so that they can even be deployed for whatever purpose. Right now, they're in no condition to be even deployed in that matter. There may be some private militias that are up to the job, but again, they're kind of small. I mean, relatively speaking, there's not that many of them. Maybe if you were to coalesce them, they might be, but individually, they're just not going to be enough. So what I'm talking about is, if you look at what happened during the French and Indian War, what happened during the French and Indian War when the French lost and the British gained that great victory to end French influence on the eastern seaboard and up to the Ohio River Valley, that doubled Great Britain's national debt. So what did Britain do? They sought source of revenue to pay it off, and they wanted to impose new taxes on the colonies. And this led to stiff resistance. Troops called in, forced the Crown's authority, and that led to the start of the Revolution. That was 13 years, or 12 years, 13 years, however you want to look at it, between the end of that war and when they decided after Lexington and Concord to get together, coalesce the militias with the Continental Congress, and pick the greatest American in the history of this country, George Washington, to command it. 13 years. It took 13 years for that to happen. So what I'm saying is that we can't expect it to happen overnight. Got to start as soon as possible, right away, and it's got to be there extant in order to show the will of the states. Doesn't mean you go crazy and you go like rogue and just do whatever you want to in willy-nilly fashion and, just get mad and run around in circles and brandish your guns. It means you are organized, trained, and equipped. Now, my question is that I heard earlier, I heard a gentleman talking about the federal government or the currents that are presently destroying this republic. He analogized them to a tornado that's going to come in and destroy the town. The town will still be there, but whatever made the town function as a functional entity would be wiped out. Now, my question is, to implement this Northwest Ordinance, are they envisioning a total or near total collapse of regional and or state authority to actually begin implementing this? Is this something that would follow after the inevitable collapse of the current, caused by the current policies that this government is pursuing? I was active duty in the Army, served in Vietnam. It was Germany, infantry, armor, veteran. I was a non-commissioned officer, operations sergeant in the Illinois National Guard as a military police operations sergeant. I'm a retired police officer, firearms instructor, SWAT instructor, and I'm an auto mechanic. So, I got a little bit of experience with these matters. Okay. I was I got activated for 2 other wars in the National Guard. The Gulf War, they had me stationed in Germany, ready to stage to Middle East, but we didn't go. We went to Germany instead, but then they called me for Operation Rapid Freedom, and I said that's enough. 3 wars for me is enough for one lifetime, so I'm out. But I do have a basic understanding of operations, logistics in particular, operations and everything else, and, all of these things have intrigued me. All of these thoughts about militias and how to organize them and prepare them, and again, I'm not talking about, I was in the National Guard for 22 years. And I know the National Guard is the organized militia, but at any time it may be called in the federal service on the whims of the Pentagon or the President of the United States. And that's where it is. Over my left breast pocket, whenever I went to drill on the weekend in my fatigues, it said United States Army. It didn't say Illinois National Guard. So I know that ain't the militia. We're talking about the state militias as envisioned in the late 18th century, early 19th century, right up to the passage of the Dick Act in 1903, which created the National Guard. Go ahead, Jim.
Sarge, a little history that's not well publicized is that several years back in committee, when we had large people gathering and were implementing a lot of these things, all that was studied out, and there's a committee report on what that structure looks like. and that's sealed in our archives. It's not for public distribution at this point in time. But we felt like we needed to have an answer to those exact questions, and the committee came up with that. And the findings are there. Believe me, I've seen them. The other thing is, I wanted you to put in your pipe, so to speak, the old acronym, put this in your pipe and smoke it. I have an associate who is a high-up officer in the reserves in his area, and I know for a fact that for a while they've been training. And in fact, I told him they were going to be training because General Valloway told us they were going to be training. And sure enough, within a week, he was called up, and what Valloway said at that time was Red October began. And sure enough, this guy was called up. Now, who's he been training with? He's been training with other reserves, not guard, reserves. He's National Guard. He's been training with other guards and reserves, and he has county sheriffs. But he's not been training with local PD. So essentially what I'm reading from all of this is that in following that trail is that everything that is corporate, such as cities, their police officers are not part of this training. They'll have no jurisdictional authority when what General Valley described several years ago on our radio show comes about. So that's kind of an interesting little thing. I'm not sure I can tell you 100% how that fits into your equation, but I'll guarantee you it does.
Well, I'd say the Illinois Constitution specifically says that police forces are not part of the unorganized militia. I don't know about every state's constitution, but I know the Illinois Constitution specifically exempts police officers and certain public officers, as they are called.
Well, that makes sense then, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
You know the tree by its fruit, don't you?
Yeah, that's an apt way to put it. Yes.
Thanks for showing up. It's always a pleasure to get a visit with you.
Yeah, but like I said, man, I just think that, again, leaving aside the assurances that we're not talking about organizing the militia to just go Yahoo crazy and just start rioting all over the place. I'm talking about just restoring it to its rightful place in American history that it occupied right up from the beginning of the Republic to 1903. I'm talking about restoring it to at least that level of recognition.
You have to be responsible in order to have the keys to the car. If you're not, you wreck the car and you don't have it any longer. And the same is applicable in restoring our Constitution. And you have to learn how to drive it and operate it because it is a government formed by the people. And so the people have to learn to come into concert and to drive this automobile because it's not really complex. It's pretty simple. In my county,
big responsibility.
54 counties in my state, and we need one representative in each county, and they go to be the voice of the people in their county, and they're there for a short period of time and represent their county at the state, and they go home and they live amongst the other people who are all militia because we're all responsible to drive this car, and we all own a piece of that machinery that makes the car go down the road. And if any one piece of it's not functioning, you find a car parked alongside the road, call them for a tow truck.
Yeah. Well, I just want everybody to remember the overarching principle that there is no government that has ever existed or likely ever will be that will not rely upon the maintenance of and potential use of force to ensure its continuation and survival. I know of no such thing in history. I don't think there ever will be such things as long as we're human beings and human nature. I just don't see it any other way. And I'm saying that right now, the level of the level of force between what the federal government can employ and what the states can employ, generally speaking, is just too disparate for I think the state of affairs continue.
Okay. Once again, very powerful, strong, informative. The church leaders that I asked to come on board, there were a couple here listening, but they did not participate. The church is so very important. The structure of the church, our heritage, is so very important. But we know I would say all the 501c3 churches out there are sellouts. They've sold out, and there will be no deals made with the devil. The Republic does not make deals with the devil. So there's only one Father, and He's in heaven. So you can't serve two fathers, you know. So once again, you know, we can't do anything without the churches. Hopefully the righteous churches out there will be made voices on this podcast again shortly, because it's so very important to have a spiritual background and spiritual heritage and a foundation to stand upon here in this republic. So moving down the line, I guess closing thoughts to tonight's podcast, it's unfortunate that also the people of militia did not continue on, or participate in the podcast show. All right.
Senator Purcell, this is your first time listening in and being live on the show. I'd like to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts on tonight's show. Are you serving the military? You're a patriot? Are you with us?
Yes, Governor, thank you. I've been listening, and one thing that really seems to stand out to me is that we have to make a smooth financial transition. We're not going to get folks to sign up unless the money's right. So I think we need to look a little harder at how the money transition is going to happen. I don't have any answers there, but I find that to be probably the biggest issue. Bless y'all.
I agree. That's a good point you just brought up, and maybe next week we can address that. That'd be something to think about. Roger, Jim, me, you, and Mark, and Dan. Maybe we can talk about that. Maybe during the week discuss that. It's very important. I'm sure money is something that we'll have the phone lines loaded up on that one.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming on, and I really respect all of you for being such patriots. Stay strong. Stay in the good news, the patriot news, not the fake news that you see on television. We're going to all work together on this. It's all going to end up the way it's supposed to, because God's in charge.
Amen. Thank you, Sandy, and God bless you for your service, and thank you so much for your service. It's an honor to always have you on this podcast and to speak with you, and I'm so very grateful that you're public, so thank you so much.
Thank you. The honor is mine, sir.
Well, we just got to come together. We've got to face the truth. We've got to face the situation we've got out there. Unfortunately, we got to share information, but we got to do more than talk. And that's why I'm trying to get some things going where I can get out there and, take the message further than just strictly on the podcast. Because I do the show on Monday, and please everybody join American Statesman, Blog Talk Radio, and we talk about the different subjects. But right now, we have shared a lot of information. People are waking up to what's going on. Now we have to make plans of what we're going to do. This is why I was talking about the ESG earlier, and of course, I didn't say too much in reference to the IRS, but they're forming an army against us. We have to do something. We cannot just sit here, and this is where the challenge comes, is to what to actually do. We talk a lot about being, becoming a member, or being a senator, or whatever else, that kind of stuff. And I can definitely see about trying to help out on that. What are we going to do between now and January 2023? That's going to make a difference. We have to take some action now, and that's the answer I can't seem to get. That's except for me to go out there and talk to candidates and the various public officials.
You're right, and I thank you so much for participating. And as you know, I come over to your podcast when I can also, because I feel it's my duty to do that, to help you out with your listening base, and you can be a voice for the Republic. Thank you. And hopefully you will be. You're very well spoken, very well, you have a lot of knowledge, and there's a place for you. There's a place for everybody in the Republic. So, yes, we need you. We need you, definitely. Thank you for coming aboard.
I just wanted to say, to pull this off, we're going to need a lot of heart. We're going to need God's help. And if you've ever been part of a disaster, you know how people pull together then. And when you see the Babylonian system crashing down all around you, a system that you've been in your life and you don't really know much else, most of us don't really know much else, it's actually a good thing. It means we get a new change and a new beginning. That's my word of encouragement. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Sarge, you got something here you want to add here, too?
Yeah, I think we all have to agree that no matter what happens as a result of our efforts, we got a tall mountain to climb. It ain't insurmountable, but it ain't going to be easy. I mean, the ridicule directed at efforts like this is going to be off charts. You got to realize that. But look, if you're really convinced that You're doing the right thing. You just got to stay the course and be prepared for it.
You're absolutely right. You are so right. Jim, you going to say something here?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Sarge, everyone, I appreciate your participation and conversation. You know, conversation is important. Steel sharpens steel. Wisdom comes from many sharp minds. I'd like to leave you with a mental picture, if I could. And Joe knows me. I am censored to a degree. There's things I can't be fully disclosed about. So I like to talk sometimes in things you have to think about and reason out for yourself. That way you can't necessarily say, I said it. So there was a conversation earlier tonight that came up about Trump and what if he slipped and you know, he's part of the RNC and, you know, there's questions there. We haven't got to where we want to be. And there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. But what if Trump was the first person to be arrested because of his Mar-a-Lago raid? What if they made it so that he couldn't get on the ticket? What do you think the temperature of the American patriot was going to be at that time? There was been so much hope on Trump, who represented we the people. Now, we the people are well known in the Trump organization. I dare say they know who we are. I can't say we spoke one-on-one. That doesn't mean we haven't communicated in our ways. What if we all got together and just did our patriotic duty and did what we needed to do and helped the American people have fair and honest elections under a structure that's recognized in law by the world and has been recognized in law since it was filed when we had a J Treaty, our first treaty. And regardless of whatever happened with RNC and Donald Trump, and they can always take him out and assassinate him and poison him. I mean, all kinds of things can happen in that world he lives in, and the world we live in. But if we the people rise up and do our patriotic duty, we'll have the outcome that we need. And if we don't, we'll have the outcome we deserve. And with that, Joe, thank you, America, for joining us tonight in this conversation.
Well, it's emotional. We all got ideas. We all have plans. We all have dedication to this thing. And we all have our little pet peeves or projects or ideas about things. And some of us are concentrated on one thing or the other. And this IRS thing is really taking shape. A lot of people are concerned about that. But remember, stay focused like a laser beam on the head of the snake and what's really controlling everything. And that's really, really, really the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve banking cartel, because there wouldn't be any IRS agents if it wasn't for the Federal Reserve. So, you know, we have to stay focused, and because and who controls the Federal Reserve? The evil cabal that's out there, and that's evil. Whatever you want to call it, Satan, the Antichrist, whatever you want to call it, the evil out there. We got to stay focused on that and make sure we try to stay good and believe in our hearts, no matter how frustrated we may become with each other or within our groups, or what have you. It doesn't matter. I know the gentleman was bringing up some names there, and he mentioned one gentleman's name quite frequently, actually. So obviously he respects that individual and looks up to that individual or has a belief in that particular group. Be careful. Be careful with names and puffed up people and who's in charge of what, because so quickly we can become divided on that. I've always said that. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. I do this for you. I don't care about anything but you. You, the people out there, that's what I care about. I care about you. I don't want anything from this but freedom. And you, the will of the people to take charge and just have your freedom. Have your republic. That's what I care about. When I get to hang up this phone, I got 30 minutes and I'm going to do a 12-hour shift at work. I dedicated wholeheartedly. There's no excuses why I shouldn't be here or do what I'm doing. And there shouldn't be any excuses why anyone else out there within our country today shouldn't be banging down the lines of this phone chat tonight. Because we talk about the most serious, important issues we are facing here in America right now. And that's our freedom, our life, our country, our families, our jobs, everything all combined here we addressed here tonight. So with that being said, God bless our republic, and please join us again next week at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And please tell a friend, tell everybody about the republic. Go ahead, close us out with prayer, please.
Our website is republicfortheunitedstatesofamerica.org. You can go to our home tab, and where do I begin? Please sign up for the emails and give us a way to establish communication with you. And do your research, read the Declaration of Sovereign Intent and the claim of interest that we filed on your behalf. You need to own your future, folks, and this is the beginning stages of what we've done for you over the decades. And so, please bless us, Mark, in our efforts.
All right. Just wanted to point out that the Federal Reserve is controlling, thinks they have a lot of power, but they're creating money out of thin air. So that's kind of laughable a little bit. And also I wanted to say that when first time I did view the Declaration of Sovereign Intent and I read it, and I was only allowed to read part of it because it hadn't been filed yet, my heart just about leapt out of my chest. It's exactly what I wanted to happen, exactly what I wanted to hear. And if you want that kind of joy, patriots, don't be afraid to get on the website and read the Declaration of Sovereign Intent. Father of light, thank you for the many truths being revealed to us in this time of spiritual illumination and testing. Truths like, number one, this nation was founded on Christian principles. Part two, a republic obeys the law of nature and nature's God. Part three, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. So thank you, Father, for a nation of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Thank you for that is such a rich heritage of freedom and originality, liberty. Help us to carry out the process of re-inhabiting our republic for the future posterity of this nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all people. Give us wisdom to represent the people of this land as the Bible and the organic Constitution shows us how to do. Be with us, our military, our family, and our friends, as we have a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence as we go forth to claim liberty throughout this land. Guard our nation from destruction, and be with us, Father God. Wash us in the blood of Jesus. Forgive our sins and strengthen us to stand and stay standing. Give us people and provisions to be able to carry out our work and provide for our families. In Yeshua, our Savior's name, we pray. Thank you, Father. Amen.
God bless everybody.
Amen.
God bless the Republic.